Abubakar Malami hints at the possibility of declaration of a state of emergency in Anambra State over the November governorship election in the state. And some youths in the ruling All Progressives Congress APC are aggrieved about the state of affairs in the party. They voiced out their frustration and they are speaking tonight. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Seun Okinbaloye, Channels Television's office here in Abuja, the nation's capital. Welcome to the program, everyone. As always, we have full packed show for you today. So stay with me, everyone. And let's begin by telling you, again, we've seen the governor of Edo State coming out and warning the federal government on the state of the economy. He was criticized heavily the last time, but he has warned of tougher times ahead. It's revealed that the state Edo, got a 1.7 billion deficit in the federal allocation for the month of September. And according to him, things might get even worse for the month of October. Mr. Obaseki, who was speaking shortly after swearing in commissioners and special advisors at the government house, insisted that he has been vindicated over his earlier comment on dwindling revenues from the federal government, which did not go down too well in many quarters. Take a listen to him.
These are very auspicious times, and as a government faced with dwindling revenues, I emphasize, faced with dwindling revenues. In the month of September, we earned from the Federation account 1.7 billion naira less than we earned in August. And NNPC has threatened that the month of October, the Federation account may have to give them money for them to sustain the subsidy regime we're having. So things are not looking good financially, particularly at the federal level. You're witnesses to when I raised alarm 6 months ago and it was dismissed. Now the chicken is coming home to roost. But this is the time that you're joining me in government to govern Edo State. Our internally generated revenues is not at the desired level yet. We need to make sure that we get more Edo people to now contribute and pay taxes. A situation where less than 100,000 or less than 200,000 people out of 5 million people pay taxes is unfair.
You've heard the governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, there. I'm very sure that there will be reaction to some of his statements because there was the last time he spoke. Well, that's not our focus tonight, just one of those issues. But let's give you more of your political roundup stories.
The electorates in Nasarawa State have gone to polls today to elect chairmen and councillors for the 13 local government areas in the state. Voting in most polling units, including that of Governor Abdullahi Sule, did not start early, and the governor attributed it to a logistics problem. He disclosed this after he cast his vote at the Motor Park polling unit at his hometown in Gudi. The governor also added that there were scenarios of ballot snatching in some parts of the state, with 4 persons already arrested.
It's like the ballot papers that were being taken to Falunrua area. When they were being checked, they discovered them with some materials of the opposition party.
After a long wait, the People's Democratic Party in Ebonyi State conducted its local government congresses in 13 local government areas. The event, which took place on Tuesday, had members come out in numbers to elect those who will lead the opposition in the state as the 2023 general elections fast approach.
Everybody in Ebonyi State knows that Ebonyi State has been a PDP state. We've not refrained from that. Our belief is that people still trust PDP, and we will still do what we know how to do, and then bring leadership to the state.
Chairman of the Adamawa State PDP Local Government Congress Committee, who doubles as Deputy Governor of Bauchi State and heads a 5-man national committee, has assured Nigerians that the forthcoming state congresses will be better than what was observed during the ward and local government congresses in the state.
Local government congresses have been very smooth. They've been fantastic. We have visited quite a number of places. We have visited quite a number of local governments, and we have seen how the conduct is taking place, and we are satisfied with the way it is taking place, and we believe that is one of the best things that can happen to the party in Adamawa State.
The Senate is confirming the appointment of the Executive Secretary and board members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. President Muhammadu Buhari had submitted the names of the nominees to the Senate for confirmation. They are George Abang Ekpungu, Executive Secretary, and 4 board members, namely Lukman Mohammed Edo, Anuma Adeze Enugu, Kola Adeshino Kwara, Yahya Muhammad Yobe.
Well, let's begin our first set of conversation. The federal government has threatened to impose a state of emergency in Anambra State if the state government does not ensure security of lives ahead of the November 6 elections. The Ministry of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, gave the threat after the Federal Executive Council meeting chaired by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. He said that the government will be forced to prevail and do the needful to ensure democracy is upheld. They can listen to the AGF.
When our national security is attacked and the sanctity of our constitutionally guaranteed democracy is threatened, no possibility is ruled out. As a government, we have a responsibility to ensure the sustenance of our democratic order. As a government, we have a responsibility to provide security to lives and properties. So within the context of these constitutional obligations of the government and the desire to establish democratic norms and order, there is no possibility that is outruled. The government will certainly do the needful in terms of ensuring that our elections are held in Anambra, in terms of ensuring necessary security is provided, and in terms of ensuring protection is accorded to lives and properties. So what I'm saying in essence, no possibility is outruled by government in terms of ensuring the sanctity of our democratic order, in terms of ensuring that our elections in Anambra holds, and you cannot out all possibilities, inclusive of the possibility of declaration of state of emergency where it is established in essence that there is failure on the part of the state government to ensure the sanctity of security of lives, properties, and democratic order. So our position as a government is if these elections are going to hold and necessary security in terms of democratic order must certainly prevail for the purpose of this election. So we are resolved to have the election. The elections are going to hold, and no possibilities are ruled out in terms of ensuring the provision of security for the purpose of the conduct of the election as far as Anambra is concerned.
All right, that is the Attorney General, given the position of the federal government as things stand today in relation to the security situation in Anambra State ahead. It's just about a month exactly today that election will hold in Anambra State. On November 6th, that's when the governorship election will hold. But this is mostly a legal matter. But what does the president have the power, or the federal government have the power to declare a state of emergency. Let me quickly show you this before I bring in my guest. The part of the Constitution of the of Nigeria that talks about the state of emergency, section 45, subsection 3. That is it there. It says in that section that in this section, a period of emergency means any period during which there is enforced a proclamation of a state of emergency declared by the president in exercise of the powers conferred on him under section 305 of this section of the Constitution. But what does section 305 of the Constitution say? So it states clearly the reasons or the conditions for declaration of state of emergency. So take a look at it. The president shall have the power to issue a proclamation of a state of emergency only when A, the federation is at war, B, the federation is in imminent danger of invasion or involvement in a state of war, C, there is actual breakdown of public order and public safety in the federation or any part thereof to such extent as to require extraordinary measures to restore peace and security. D, there is a clear and present danger of an actual breakdown of public order and public safety in the federation or any part thereof requiring extraordinary measures to avert such danger. E, there is an occurrence or imminent danger or the occurrence of any disaster or natural calamity affecting the community or a section of the community in the federation. F, there is any other public danger which clearly constitutes a threat to the existence of the federation. Or G, the president receives a request to do so in accordance with the provisions of subsection 4 of this section. Section 305 of part 2 of the third schedule clearly states what the state of emergency is and the powers of the president and the conditions in which these can be declared. So let's break this down for you. I took my time to bring all of these sections for you so that you can understand and be able to make your decision as a citizen. So tonight, we hear from the government of Anambra State on the statement by the federal government. We get an informed legal opinion on the matter. Tonight, I'm being joined by the Commissioner for Information and Public Enlightenment, Mr. Don Adinoba, who joins us from Awka, the Anambra State capital, virtually. And from Lagos is the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Paul Ananaba, who also joins us virtually. Let's first and foremost get the reaction from the state government to this situation, and we get the legal advice or legal opinion on what is happening. Honorable Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Adinoba, give us a sense of how the state government received the statement of the Attorney General and the position of the federal government based on the security of things and the November 6th governorship election in Anambra State. It does look like we cannot hear for the moment the audio. We can get the audio of Mr. Adinoba, the Commissioner for Information in Anambra State. But if you're trying to...
You can hear me now.
Let's hear from the Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
I think you can hear me right now.
All right. So if you can hear you, can you hear me now? You've been talking, I can see that, but we cannot hear you. So give us a position of the reaction of the Anambra State government.
The reaction is simple.
We still cannot hear Mr. Adinoba. We'll come to you as we resolve the audio problems there. But, Senior Advocate, can you give us a sense of what to make of the statement of the Attorney General of a possibility of declaration of a state of emergency ahead of the election in Anambra State?
Thank you, Adrian. My reaction is that the Attorney General has done his job. What he's trying to say is that they could do everything to ensure that there is law and order, sanctity restored to Anambra State, to ensure that there is election in Anambra State and all that. Those are all conditional statements. I guess that the media picked up because of hearing the word state of emergency. State of emergency is not a simple situation. It's not as easy. It may be easy in a military regime, but in a democratic constitutional regime like we have the 1999 Constitution as amended, state of emergency is a big issue because you will be suspending the democratic institutions in that state. And that's why Section 45 of the Constitution is very clear that for you to have state of emergency, Section 305 must be in place. And it will take too much time to read it, but Ken, you have done a good job in trying to scan through the 6 subsections of Section 305. What I make out of it is that the government is saying we are serious about restoring law and order and normalcy in Anambra State. Yes, there is some degree of violence in Anambra, but I do not think it has degenerated to a point where we can be talking about state of emergency. Let's talk about it. What is the issue? It is violence associated with elections. Anambra over time has shown resilience and peace and stability over time. And it has gotten to a point where many people were already using Anambra as an example of a stable state in Nigeria. But it is out of this election that is coming. We, rather than declare state of emergency in Anambra, we should address the issue of institutions of peace. I mean, the police, the armed forces in the state. And I address the political parties, address the politicians. It is the politicians that can explain why Anambra has suddenly become a state of violence. And generally speaking, the state of violence in Anambra, yes, some high-profile murder has happened in Anambra, but it's not in such a state as to be higher than what you have in the Northeast, Northwest, and even some North Central states. So I think that, yes, the Attorney General could issue that warning, but I don't think the federal government will go beyond the warning to begin to envisage state of emergency when elections ought to hold on November 6th. Today, just 1 month, we can't be talking about that. We should step up the game with law enforcement. And I want to see things like the commitments we used to find with the federal election and some state elections, people coming up to call all the gladiators, the stakeholders, to come together and sign on to peace. People should know that Anambra is so significant in this country. We should not, because of one election, turn down all the good things we know about Anambra. That's the state that produced Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. That's the state that produced Chipemeka Anyoko, and so many distinguished Nigerians in different phases of life. We must address the issue of violence in Anambra, but not to begin to also cause more problems by trying to declare state of emergency. We do not need state of emergency in Anambra, but we need to do what we ought to do to restore sanctity of life in Anambra State.
Thank you, Mr. Ananaba, because lawyers were quick to restate the position of the Constitution, Section 14(2)(c), about the powers and the responsibilities of the state or the government, which it says that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Not clarity whether state, local, or federal, but it says the government. So in that sense, the federal government is coming up and saying it is our duty to ensure that that happens ahead of the election. Well, let's get a sense of what, because I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Nanaba, whether or not which part of the Section 305 the federal government is looking at to enforce in the situation in Anambra State. But how is Anambra State government receiving this? How are they dealing with it? Because it is their immediate responsibility as a state. Mr. Adinoba, I guess we can hear you now. If you can hear me, let's get your
Yes, I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me very well now.
Really good to hear and see you, Mr. Adinoba. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Shehu, it's been a long time. Yeah, nice to connect with you. Nigerians are outraged by the threats by the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Federation, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Since the renewed violence in Anambra State, which we believe is politically motivated, not more than 15 persons have been killed. Not more than 15 persons. How many persons have died in Borno, Niger, Kaduna, Yobe, Zamfara, even Imo, which is APC controlled, Ebonyi, APC controlled? Has anybody threatened emergency rule in any of these states? For the past 7 years, Anambra State has remained the safest state, the most stable in Nigeria, and the country with the highest stock of social harmony. We have been so proud of our record. We remain the only state in the whole country that for the past 7 years has not experienced one single bank robbery. In fact, they asked the police authorities, what is going on here is politically motivated, and the declaration by the Honorable Attorney General is a confirmation.
All right, we lost Mr. Adinoba there momentarily. Let's get back to Mr. Nanaba, who is breaking it down, giving us the benefit of the law knowledge that is sharing with us. So what, in practical terms, what can you tell us? If there is a declaration of state of emergency, what happens to the government? What happens to the paraphernalia of governance in Anambra State? Let's assume there is a declaration of state of emergency today. What happens?
All right, Shehu, I thank you for the initial point you made. Section 14 of the Constitution should not be taken out of its context. In fact, it's a broad a declaration of what governance ought to be. It doesn't say it is the federal government that it is duty to ensure the preservation of life and property of the people. So it doesn't mention the federal government or the state or the local government. So we will assume that it is government as a whole. So it is not a basis for declaration of state of emergency. Now, there must be issues requiring extraordinary measure for you to put down the will of the people. Because what state of emergency does is to put aside the governor, the state assembly, and all those institutions. And it's an extraordinary measure. Anambra has not slid into that point. And I don't want us to turn this to a political discussion or an ethnic discussion. I could hear my brother say, an APC state and all that. That's not the issue. The issue is a serious one, and it must be taken as seriously as it is. Listen, before we declare state of emergency, Section 305 had made it very clear that there has been actual breakdown of law and order. There is no actual breakdown of law and order in Anambra State. Schools are in session, banks are working, markets are on, but there is a violence, really. But it has not gotten to a point of state of emergency. And I call on even well-meaning people from Anambra State
to interrupt. Sorry, apologies to interrupt. I just wanted to, one of the things, one of the subsections in that 305 says, if there is any other public danger which clearly constitutes a threat to the existence of the Federation, or the president receives a request to do so. Well, the Constitution also makes reference to possibility of a threat or danger, not when it's also happening. Could that also be that reason?
Yes, that is what I'm addressing, and I wanted to take you to Section 11 of the Constitution, because once you declare state of emergency, you will be going to Section 11 again, where the National Assembly will be making laws for that state and all that. We have seen states of emergency in this country. It was in Plateau State and all that. What did it turn out to be? Anambra cannot be put to a state of emergency at that point. If you look at Section 3053F, that's where you were reading. 3053F says, where there is any other public danger which clearly constitutes a threat to the existence of the Federation. It does not give the president the sole prerogative to determine what this other public danger is, because that public danger must be a public danger that constitutes a threat to the existence of the Federation. That people have been killed, yes, in Anambra State, but has it become a threat to the entire country? You will agree with me, it has not become. Because worse things have also been happening around. That is not to sanction that. That makes us to wake up as a country. That makes the leadership to think deeply. The state government must step up now. The local governments must step up so that these killings will stop. It's basically killings and attack of public.
Yeah, Mr. Ananaba, apologies to interrupt again. Yeah, let me bring back Mr. Adinoba, but I'm going to still come back because this conversation, we didn't know that this was going to happen today, but when I was asking Mr. Clement Nwankwo yesterday on the program that if this set of security situation continues, what could happen? He said there's a possibility of a constitutional crisis, but I'm still going to come back to you, Mr. Ananaba, so that you can explain what that could mean for Anambra State. But Mr. Adinoba, we lost your audio at some point, but you are now back with us. Please go ahead on your line of thought.
Yeah, with due respect to the learned senior advocates of Nigeria, I don't want us to live in denial. What prompted the Attorney General to make that declaration today was pure politics. There is no point being in denial. I've asked very simple questions. What is the situation in Borno, Niger, Plateau, Benue? Elections were held in all these states. Adamawa, Taraba. Elections were held. Free and fair, declared by INEC. Not up to 15 persons have been killed in Anambra State since the renewed violence. So what is so special that the federal government of Nigeria should be contemplating a state of emergency? It's all about politics. There is nothing that has not been done to ensure that the right candidates did not participate in the election, including going as far as Biruni Kudu. I'm happy the Nigerian Bar Association intervened. Even serving judges intervened. And today, reason has prevailed. They were unable to stop us there. They are now trying to come through the back door. They cannot succeed. Yeah, we have had more violence in a lot of states in the South. Nobody threatened violence. I mean, nobody threatened emergency rule. What is so special? As the Leonard SN has said, things are normal in Anambra State. Vehicles move in their thousands every day from Onitsha, from Oka, to all parts of Nigeria and beyond, and they come in. Markets are there.
Mr. Adinoba, we're due for a break. Apologies, we're due for a break. But there's going to be a big question because invariably, what the Attorney General has said today and the position of the federal government from the inference we could make from what he said has questioned the powers, has questioned the capacity of the state government to maintain law and order, and that's why they're coming in. So we're going to ask you when we return from this break, what the state is doing differently to ensure there is no breakdown of law and order. In Nnewi, in the past few days, there is a similar, there is a semblance of a breakdown of law and order. Where houses were burned, PSS office was attacked, FRSC office was attacked, and INEC office was attacked. These are some of the issues. What is the Obiano-led government in Anambra State doing? You'll be telling us when we return from this break. Mr. Nanaba is also with us. But up next, Ayo Oyalowo, a member of the APC, will join us after our conversation on Anambra, where some youths in the ruling APC have spoken up on the situation in the party and they are warning to the leadership of the APC. We'll be right back. Much more to talk about. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on Channels Television. The security situation in Anambra gets us talking, and we're trying to give you a sense of what all this means. When the Attorney General of the Federation came out today that there is a possibility of the declaration of state of emergency in Anambra State, considering the security situation and the possibility of ensuring that democracy thrives and election holds. So, the state government has been reacting on the program tonight, and we're getting the legal opinion from the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Paul Ananaba. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. The question I was going to ask you, Mr. Adinoba, the Commissioner for Information and Public Enlightenment in Anambra State, before that break, was that all of these things that is happening, it does look like there is a question mark, or the federal government has questioned the capacity of your state government in maintaining law and order. Since that crisis we saw in Nnewi, what has the state government done differently to ensure that peace, law and order is maintained? Okay, I guess we lost him at some point. We'll get him back. But let me go back to Mr. Ananaba, whom you just saw on your screen right now. The question is, for some people who think that the federal government is proactive, for those who are of the opinion that maybe it's too early to be saying all of that. INEC says it is worried. And I was asking the same question yesterday. Should there be a breakdown of law and order, and November 6th is not a possible date for that election is postponed beyond what the Constitution prefers or the Electoral Act at the stage? Mr. Clement Nwanko told us yesterday that there will be a constitutional crisis. Do you envisage such? And I mean, is the federal government out of line with the statement they made today?
Well, what I had said is clear. What the Attorney General said is an if statement, a conditional statement. He didn't say we will declare state of emergency. I was only addressing it because in the unlikely event they want to go to that, I'm saying my position is that the situation in Anambra has not gotten to that point. But we all agree that there is some degree of violence in Anambra. And we all agree that it is so highly discussed because Anambra has not been a state of violence over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So, and the significance of Anambra is another point that made people to so much talk about it. But I believe that it will come down to, I believe that prominent persons in that state will certainly, and groups will come up to a work. You made a point and asked, what has the state government done? It comes back to the question of restructuring. The state government cannot give directive to the police. Section 2 and 4 of the Constitution is so clear. So we must begin to see these things as reason for constitutional amendment so that we can, to some extent, restructure this country. So that then when you are asking the state governor, what are you doing? It will be easy to answer. The state government can virtually do nothing now because except the Commissioner of Police listens to the state governor. With the military formations in Anambra State listen to the state governor, will they take commands from him? That's the problem. Again, those in the National Assembly should then see the reason why it's important to have electronic voting, electronic elections, transmission, end to end, so that we will not have such constitutional conference you are envisaging. Yes, there could be a constitutional conference, constitutional conflict issue. If it comes, we will resolve it. The courts are there. The courts will look at it and give proper interpretation and the way forward. But that also warrants a state of emergency.
So, I mean, Mr. Nanaba, the question begs that the states don't have the control and power over the police and the military, which you have emphasized, and under the control of the states, it's just that some state governments on this program have said we are not the chief executive in terms of security in our state. We're just there as figurehead when it comes to issue of security. Other than give a state of emergency warning, what would you have expected the federal government to do differently, since they have control over the police?
Thank you. I would have expected that we do not escalate the situation by increased force. I would have expected that the federal government will increase the police posted to Anambra State. There are officers of the police who are from Anambra State, senior officers too, who could be also sent on missions home. Then the federal government will engage the sociocultural groups, Johannese and all that in the area, so that the traditional rulers can also be engaged, the youth organizations. These are, because force has never solved any crisis. Force can only reduce it. Discussion, dialogue. The state government should also work with the federal government, so that the federal government, the state government can also partner with the police, so that it doesn't escalate. Bringing army is not even so important at this stage, because whatever it is, we will be able to find as we dialogue with groups. And when people feel sense of belonging, they will be able to, relax and help and provide information. All these violent groups are human beings. You cannot tell me that those in Anambra will not know these people. They will know them. If they come, if the government dialogues with these Anambra people, we will find solution to it.
Mr. Paul Ananaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much for breaking those down for us. It's clear in a lot of Nigerians' mind now about what the law says and what it stipulates and the powers of the president in this regard. Unfortunately, we don't have the Commissioner for Information Anambra State, Mr. Don Adunoba, who has been speaking with us. But I must sincerely thank him also for joining us tonight. Appreciate your time, gentlemen. So let's move from the security situation and the state of emergency threats on Anambra ahead of the governorship election. We move into the internal affairs of the APC, the ruling party in Nigeria. Some members, including youths of the party, are not happy with several things and the way things have gone. They are now demanding a rebirth to help the party survive the present into the nearest future. Some of members of the party held a press conference earlier today. Take a listen to them on their grievances.
Take the courageous step of admitting that the APC has deviated from the ideal political party our founding fathers envisioned during its formation in 2013. Having succeeded in winning the elections and enthroning the government in 2015 to bed the radical change that was an urgent need in the country, the onerous task of managing the party as a true and progressive political party began to hit the brick wall as early as the party came into power. Much more than not, APC has functioned as an association run and operated in accordance with the wishes and aspirations of whichever group that is dominant at any particular period. If it seems like the APC is headed in the wrong direction today, it is because we laid the foundation and nurtured it towards that direction many years ago. We cannot continue in this manner, and we believe that it is time for the APC to rebirth and reinvent itself as a true, progressive, and reform-minded political party that is constantly evolving in accordance with its philosophical objectives and the yearnings of the majority of members.
So one of the leaders of the group is the mixture of youth and not so young in the APC who have come out and have stated or restated their minds on the ongoings. Joining me, Ayo Oyalo is a member of the APC. Thank you so much, Ayo, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Obviously, with the color of your beards, you are not.
Yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to correct. That we are not youths. We are members of the party.
Youths
I'm sure we have a lot of youths in the party who will also believe in what we are saying, but clearly it's not about ageism right now. I am not youth, obviously. I'm pushing 50. You can't call me a youth.
Yeah.
So clearly we are not about youth. We are about every member of the APC.
All right.
This is the yearnings and aspiration of our members.
So let's know, because that does not give us a full picture, the press conference and the soundbite that we had there. Let's get a full picture. Is your party derailing?
Well, we are worried about what is going on in the party. We believe that when the APC was formed, there was an objective. There was a vision by our president today, who is now the overall leader of our party. And then we also believe that it was envisioned between him and the angle of the Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who is also our national leader. So we believe the vision was for us to have a progressive party that is all-inclusive. But unfortunately, what we are seeing now, the party, even though it was used then as a special purpose vehicle to win an election, it was supposed to have metamorphosed into a proper party, a proper political party that is designed, that follows the rules, that follows its constitution, that does things the way it should be done. For instance, we had members of the BOT mentioned, but up to today, they were never inaugurated. So those are some of the problems in the party. So we wanted a party that will grow from a special purpose vehicle that will not just be a platform for winning an election, but a party that will be an example to Nigeria and the entire Africa how a political party should be nurtured and should run its programs and its policies.
What you have explained now is generic, Ayo. You've not given pinpoint on the specific. So let's go to the specific.
Is that we do not want a party that is hijacked at every point
by a few people.
Well, what we have noticed over time is that whenever, like we said in the press conference, any dominant force in the party suddenly begin to micromanage the party. And if you look at what happened before we became government, the party that we took power from was doing exactly what we are saying today, where a few people just sit down and then decide on what to do for everybody. Now, they keep doing this, and whoever is not favored, so to say, are put aside. They are seen as nobody. But we want a party where everybody is somebody.
Who are these people that you're referring to?
We all know what is going on.
No, we don't all know. Look, we don't all know.
Let me tell you one thing. My being here today is not to create problem for anybody, to call anybody's name, or to start a fight. My being here today is to represent my friends and people who think like me. We are progressive. So what we are here for is to tell the people who are currently running the party, that is the body that was created,
the caretaker committee, led by the governor of Yobe, Mai Mala Buni.
So we want a situation today.
Have you actually approached your group? You don't have a name.
No, we are the APC Rebirth. We want a rebirth for our party.
Okay, so that's what you want. Have you approached the governor, Mai Mala Buni, the caretaker chairman?
But we have approached a lot of other stakeholders who feel the same way. A lot of people are feeling left out. A lot of people believe that decisions are being taken without the majority having their say.
Isn't it a similar thing that some of you had against the Shemale leadership?
Well, if that means we keep making the same mistake, and like I said earlier in the morning, if my own soundbite was brought on, I said something clearly that what I've learned from history is that men never learn from history.
So your party is back into these old ways?
We are back into a situation where a few people decide for the majority, and it is wrong.
Because the essence of political party is participation.
Exactly.
That is the underlying factor.
We want
so you feel left out.
Many of us feel left out. Millions of members of the party
are left out. Describe to us, Mr.
Okay, let me give you an example.
What did being left out mean?
Let me give you an example.
Because you were not given an appointment, or because you think that the National Convention has not been held? But exactly.
Okay, let me give you an example of what left out in this instance means. We've had the ward and the state congresses. But if you follow the news, you find out that in most states, you either have parallel Congress or you have people going to court. We don't want this kind of thing. So what we're talking about being left out is this. Even if our party is going to go through consensus, because it's part of our constitution to have consensus, consensus must be one. Everybody who is a stakeholder must be carried along. Let me use you and I as an example. You want to run for a particular position. I want to run for the same position. And in order not to create issue, we want a consensus. Consensus should be you and I sitting down with the leaders and agreeing that, okay, you are stepping down for me or I am stepping down for you. That is consensus. But what we have seen now is what they call consensus. Is somebody sit down somewhere and write the names of whoever they feel, and then they say it's consensus. That is not consensus. That is coercion. That is imposition. And that is what we do not want. If you go to many states today, you see a lot of people angry that candidates are being imposed in all the world and state congresses. And if we don't change, if we don't do anything about this, if it continues, the National Convention might become a disaster that we want to avert.
Okay, so for a lot of our viewers who are not privy to or who are not very much in the know of how party primaries or internal elections are being held, there's no evil in consensus. Consensus, in fact, is a form of an election.
It's actually part of our constitution.
It's part of the APC constitution. It's part of what we know as election processes in the country. But you're saying that most of the consensus election that held during the Congress were not actual
they are more of coercion, more of imposition than consensus.
Because the constitution stipulates the processes for consensus.
Exactly. Don't lead people on. You know that you want to impose people. Why do you let people buy forms? Why do you make them go through campaign and all these things?
Which of the states are did this
A lot
happen?
of states.
Can you mention to us?
I don't have all the names on my head right now.
But you can mention like 2 or 3.
No,
did it happen in Lagos? Did it happen?
It happened in so many states. Let's leave it at that, Sean. Let's leave it at that.
You're trying to be political.
I'm political. I'm here on politics, so I'm political. Clearly,
I'm talking in the sense of language.
But the news,
you're trying to be political with your
language.
The news
is everywhere. We've had a lot of impositions. We've had people being made to drop their ambition. I have one of our friends who is part of us here who wanted to contest for a particular position, and he was told, no, you will not contest. And the guy has been allowed to buy form. So those are the things we are talking about.
So now, because
beyond this,
Abuja
we are also worried. No, it's not about Abuja.
No,
this is the mistake you are going to make. Okay.
Mr. Yalo, just let me ask you this question, because I've had to speak with leaders of your party who say that there is an entitlement mentality in some of the members of the party who think they can sit in Abuja and get positions or get noticed and get being enthroned, that's the word he used, locally. So for some of the people who are saying that there is coercion, there is a force, there is intimidation or whatever in the state, are they participating locally? Do they know them?
Let me give you an example. You wanted me to mention state. Because of what you have said now, what happened in Delta?
What happened there?
Before some people didn't even know where the venue of the congresses were. So these are things we want to avoid. So it's not entitlement. For instance, many of the people in my group have things to do. The convener is actually an appointee. So it's not about appointment. It's not about entitlement. And meanwhile, if people are entitled, they have a right to be entitled. Why are you a Christian or a Muslim? You are a member of a religion because you believe that the religion will offer you some good. So if people join party, they have a right to be entitled. But it's not about entitlement this time around. It's about a few people deciding for the majority. It's participation. You rightly said it. Participation should be in all levels. People should be allowed to make their choices freely without being imposed upon. We're talking about state congresses. You're talking about Abuja. This is not about Abuja. What happened in all the states. A lot of states had these issues, and we are having people complaining that they have been sidelined. They went to, okay, it happened also in Osho. People, we had parallel congresses. These are the things that we are talking about.
So, I mean, so there are also processes in these.
There should be a process in a consensus.
When there is the lowest or the lowest cadre of party organ is a ward level.
Exactly.
Now, after a ward congress, there will be an appeal.
Yeah.
Before you can then move to the local government and then move to the state.
And
there were appeal. And so the party said it held these appeal processes.
Why are people still in court?
So people have gone to court in the party.
In court? So we are not looking at the danger this portends. You see, if we continue to behave with impunity, it was impunity that took the party in power away before we became the central government.
So the same impunity is
and now we are emptying the same system, the same thinking that we can get away with it. You can't get away because people are watching. If this man is the most popular candidate, let them win their election. We want election to hold. If people now decide by themselves that we don't want to hold an election, we want to have a consensus, let it come from them. Do not impose on them. A party that says by form means it understands and recognizes the right of people to elect whoever they want to elect as representative. But when people have been made to buy form, and then suddenly you say consensus, and it is not coming from the stakeholders, that is not consensus.
So let's try to look for a solution, and let's do that quickly. Now, you and your friends think that whatever has happened in the world and local government elections
should not be repeated at the national.
So you are not asking.
And
that
we are also asking. I know we are not asking the scrap it, and we are also saying that the date for the national convention should be made known now. It shouldn't be a secret thing that a few people are custodian of the entirety of the party. So we want everything to be completely transparent and open. We do not want a few people to sit down and decide for the majority of us. And also, one of our demands is that whoever that will be members of our National Working Committee must be people of integrity, people who don't have baggages. We do not want to become a party of X this, X that. We want to be a party of people that we choose to lead us. We don't want some people to hijack the party because we don't want a club of X.
A political party is an association.
Exactly.
And in your constitution, I'm not sure you have. There is a limitation to the.
Well, even though that is why we said make it open, so that let everybody let it be a level playing field. If an X this, X that hijack it, there's no level playing field. We don't want people with baggage. We don't want people that are going to EFCC every day. We want a clean primaries. I mean, a clean convention where everybody that aspires to hold a position can hold this position without being forced to go into any consensus.
So that's all you have to say.
Those are some of the things we have in mind. Our demands are very clean. We are talking to people we will consider our fathers. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the father of the party. We are saying he should look into this. He should not keep quiet. Things are happening. People are grumbling. A lot of people are keeping quiet, getting very angry. And in the last week, I know majority of people that left from our party who defected in Gombe State and Bauchi in large numbers.
But one would think that it all was well with your party because
we keep bringing some of these people.
The governors who
those are some of the problems. When they came into the party, who did they speak with? I know majority of our young people and even people who are not so young did not want it. But of course, everything was forced on us. If a man wants to join a party, I am a member of the party. I am holding my card for my local government. Let him go to the local government and be a member of the party. Don't bring people and impose them on us. We don't want these kind of things.
All right. Ayoyalawo, member of the APC, obviously aggrieved and he's spewed what is on his mind on behalf of some of his friends who heard the press conference. Interestingly, the press conference was held at the party secretariat, and they are aggrieved about the running of the party.
We are members of the party, so we have a right to the secretariat.
Ayoyalawo, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Joe.
But that's our show for today. Interesting things happen a lot in politics. We learn every day, and interesting things we always see. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Seun Okinbaloye. Bye-bye.